That's the doorbell at Jimmy's house. Now, when you come to my house, my doorbell sounds like this.
Hey, welcome to People's Weekly on peoplesradiounited.com. I'm Tim Best Buds. I'm here with a bunch of people who are having technical difficulty. We have Steve Shagwell, Canadian Glenn, St. Louis Gal, and Nolan Hack. But a couple of us can't hear each other yet, so we're still working out some bugs, so bear with us. So who we can hear, I guess, right now is Glenn and Steve. How are you guys doing?
Satisfactory.
I'm doing pretty fantastic, so.
Why can't you hear me?
Oh, Gal's here. Hey, Gal.
I think I'm here too.
Oh, everyone's here. Problem solved.
Tim's just having hallucinations, everybody. Don't mind him.
Thank you for throwing me under the bus.
We'll blame our technical problems on you. No. Good to be here, as always.
Cool. So what's everybody doing? Like, what's coming up on the View Up Here, Glenn?
Well, after taking another week off, but it was because of travel, so everybody can relax. But nothing really out of the ordinary coming up. Just Canadian politics. Whatever comes up. Whoever responds to guests moves up. You know, it's the same old thing. But there could be the View Up Here Global coming in December, and it might be a big deal to some people out there that are part or consider themselves to be a part of the Anonymous Collective. That's all.
That's awesome. Top's not in here. What are you working on, Nolan?
Well, let's see. Right now, I am taking a mini break until the end of the weekend and getting back on the Teach the Truth train. And I would encourage anybody who wants to teach our children the true history and current reality of the United States to contact me at Nolan A.W. Hack, that's NOLAN-AWHACK at gmail.com. We are starting to put pressure on these bigoted publishers who teach our children that black people came to America willingly and we were immigrants and the native people all magically disappeared. So that is what I am focused on at the present time.
Yeah, yesterday was a big day in genocide celebration in the United States.
Yeah.
So, Gail, I know I'm not supposed to ask you, but...
What? I'm ready this time.
Live?
I'm ready this time.
Oh, there you go.
We are raising awareness for Laurie Love's extradition hearing next week. They moved the dates to the 29th and the 30th of November. And so we've spent the last 3 weeks talking about op trial at home and discussing not extraditing Laurie to the U.S. And that's what we'll be doing Sunday.
Cool. When is that coming up? It got pushed back a day, right?
Yeah, so originally the hearings were to the 28th and 29th of this month, and they got pushed back to the 29th and the 30th.
Okay. Yeah, that's. I hope they don't extradite. I know we all do here.
Absolutely. So that's been our main focus for the last 3 weeks. There's tweet storms every Sunday. Tweet storm anytime you need to do them. There are pay spins that you can check. Hashtag trial at home. There's no reason that Laurie can't be tried in the UK. There's no reason whatsoever to send him to the United States.
I agree. Anything going on with you, Shagwell, coming up?
Well, I've been really hunkered down and really busy getting ready to put ifoughttelaw.info up in a much higher priority, looking into guests and compiling research and getting ready to do journalism with it. And of course, anybody out there listening who's looking for, it's a people's forum. It's not the Steve Shagwell show. Anybody who's looking for a forum, if they've got something to add to the discussion on criminal justice, kind of looking at a deeper level and national trends and that sort of thing, as opposed to stories like this cop did that and, you know, look what this bad cop did and that stuff, because we already know that's happening, and the focus of the site is why. Anybody who wants to contribute to that discussion, has something to add, is welcome to get a hold of me. I've always intended it as a forum, open forum, so hopefully through it, I can give other people who are concerned about this issue, talented people, some kind of platform opportunity to chime in and make their contribution. So that's about all, nothing specific yet. So that's it.
Cool. Yeah, I'll be glad when that starts going again. I like I Fought the Law shows a lot.
I've gotten a lot of really good feedback on it, and you know, I've been so busy, and it's bummed me out that I have just not been able to give that the attention it deserves. You know, I'm kind of working things out in my life where a lot of things are going to start automating, so that will allow me to focus on ifoughttelaw.info, because I'm into a lot of stuff, as you know. I mean, I'm physically active, I'm socially active, I'm always reading, and, you know, I've got all kinds of activist activities and developing myself professionally. It's just like, it's hard to find time for it all, but I'm definitely committing in 2018 to make that time for ifoughttelaw.info.
Cool. So I guess let's get started. Our first topic is net neutrality, Agitpie, AT&T, all these different companies that are, I believe December 18th is now the date they're trying to kill the internet.
The 15th is what I saw.
Oh, maybe it's the 15th. I could have been off. Yeah, so a few weeks we might not have an internet as we know it. I mean, of course, it'll be here a little bit longer until they start putting the chokehold down on it, but what we know is a free internet might be gone very, very soon.
Well, they keep coming around every year. It's like once a year they keep coming around and trying to do this killing of net neutrality thing, and there's probably people out there who are like, oh, this thing again. Well, they do it every year, and every year they don't succeed, and you're probably not that worried about it as a result. But this year is different because they have way more cards in their hands to play. The chairman of the FCC is a former Verizon executive. They have a Republican-dominated Congress. They have a president who loves corporate extortion, and a Republican-dominated Congress. Of course, it's always putting corporations before people, and it's particularly it's so hypocritical because they talk about free enterprise and free market, but they always side with these massive corporations that put these monopolies down and make it impossible for smaller companies to get on the field and compete. And that's the exact opposite of free enterprise, at least where I'm sitting here looking at it. But they do that. And so it's much more grim than it has been in previous years. And it's very important that everybody really get up on it. There's nationwide thing where people are going to protest at Verizon stores. And if you go to fightforthefuture.com, I think it is.
Yes.
Yes, they have information on that. It's going down in every major city, some small towns. If it's not going down in your town, you can get one started and you can network through there and get the word out. This is very important. Like, people need to show up outside Verizon, and you need to not just stand there and protest. Make flyers, talk to people as they're going in, explain, be like, what these guys are trying to do is make several websites that are probably your favorite really difficult for you to access. And you need to know that before you go in there and spend your money. Like, tell people so that people are turning away in droves, because the only thing these motherfuckers respect is money, so hit them there.
December 7th is the nationwide day of protest to save net neutrality. You can go to VerizonProtest.com and find out more of at least where there are some that you may know of. And just like Steve said, if there aren't any where you're around, start one. There's many different press releases. I'll tweet some of them out as we go through the show. It's December 14th is the vote.
Well, I think one of the issues is making it relatable to the average internet end user of what this is going to mean. And what I do is I try and inform them about vertical integration, which we've seen through the quote-unquote entertainment industry and the news media for over a decade now. And what I tell people is, okay, what type of computer do you have first? Whether it's a PC or an Apple, and that's where the pyramid starts. I mean, if you're on a PC, which are more and more Google controlled, whether you like it or not, it's going to depend on the ISPs, how they choose to screw people to either make them pay for what your ISP doesn't have a hand in, or to take the free promotion of what they do have a hand in, and they will try and monopolize your internet time. I mean, if you use Chrome all the time, you're going to have different results, different searches, than if you use Firefox or something else. I mean, I think it has to be more that people have to understand that the basic choices that they make and their computer executes is going to fundamentally change. That's what people don't really understand, in my opinion. It's not just a matter of things are going to be promoted or not promoted. This will allow ISPs and large IT corporations to change the way you see the internet, not just necessarily making access to sites or content will become more difficult. They want to change the landscape of the internet. And I think that's a really big part of it that's just not really being addressed. I don't know what you guys think about that.
Yeah, I agree. That's a part of it too. There's so many different ways it's going to change. Even just the way you pay for your service right now, like you pay by speed now. When this goes through, they could start charging you by sites. Like, these sites are premium, these sites are not, just like a cable company would. Yep. They charge you, oh, do you want to see sports online? Well, you got to pay for the sports package. And then you're going to have all these mainstream companies pushing their agenda out. And like you said, it's gonna go all the way down to the search engines. You're going to see exactly what they want you to see, and rarely, if ever, what they don't want you to see. Unless those people are paying them a crap load of money to make sure you still see that.
the news came down on, I think it was Tuesday when the vote was going to be, which was right before my final class, before the break. And I, of course, then brought it into the class and discussed it. Of course, only one person in there had ever heard of net neutrality, which doesn't surprise me because it's not something that's talked about off of the internet. As a matter of fact, I've never seen it anywhere outside of Twitter and Reddit ever discussed. So it doesn't surprise me that they didn't know. So I had to go about finding a way to put it in terms that they would understand. And really, the easiest way I've found that people understand it is, hey, do you watch Netflix? Do you watch Hulu? Do you watch Amazon? Because that's what a lot of people do on the internet. Do you go to Facebook? Do you go to Twitter? And then explaining that you will. And this isn't you could. This is what's going to happen. We know what's going to happen. You will, and that's why, Netflix and Amazon have actually been against it, is because they will charge you. You will be forced to pay more if you want to access Netflix. You're going to be forced to pay more if you want to access Hulu. It's that fast lane internet that they're trying to do, that those that can afford more will be able to have faster internet, whereas others can go down and see just as bad as dial-up speeds again. I mean, this is a big deal. I think that it's too late. I'm not going to lie. But there's no reason not to try.
Yeah, I think it's almost hopeless now.
I'm right there with you.
What do they call it? They're calling it like the Freedom of Internet Bill or something. Something ridiculous. It's the total opposite of what it is.
Well, the whole point is you have an administration that's completely, trying to deregulate everything, and that's what this would be deregulating the internet to where there are no regulations on how much they can charge and how much they can't charge and what kind of implications that can be. And this is a completely partisan situation. When we've seen the votes in the past, the House vote for net neutrality, Republicans 2 voted for it, 234 against it. Democrats 177 voted for net neutrality, 6 against it. In the Senate, it was straight down party lines. So this is one of those things that is very partisan.
Yeah, and I'm me, I'm the guy who's really against government regulation of anything. But what people aren't getting here, people who are opposed to government regulation like myself, what I understand and what other people like me need to understand is that there is something out there that is just as evil as government regulation of our lives, and that is corporate regulation of our lives. And basically, this is one of those times when using one of those evil things to stop the other of the evil things is a good idea. It's good strategy.
Well, what I'm afraid of is that the big ISPs, especially in the United States, are going to seize this as the ultimate analytical campaign. They're all going to try and, I think first they're going to try and figure out big groups of their subscribers into categories. And then they're going to have different marketing for them. Like even when things change, it's not going to be this, the price for this goes up for everybody. No, it'll be different amount for different geographical areas. This is almost like a black market now. Because if ISPs are left on their own to decide who pays what, where, this will change the internet forever. It'll never be like it is right now.
And see, what a lot of people don't realize is the idea of a free market with the internet would be wonderful if there was enough choices. But in the U.S., there are not enough choices. There are like 4.
Yeah.
And in many areas, you can't just get mad and be like, okay, I don't want AT&T anymore. I'm going to go find a better provider because I pay to. And believe me, it's coming from, I've exactly been in this situation. I'm going to find a provider that doesn't have fucking dial-up speed. But there's no provider here, and I live, 5 miles from a major city. There is, and think about rural areas. I might have two choices now, and it wasn't until 2 years ago that I had two choices. Most people don't have choices at all. They have to go with Charter, they have to go with AT&T or Verizon or Comcast, and that's it. And so there's already a shared monopoly going on. They already have complete control over the internet in the United States, and this will just make it 100 times worse. You're not going to be able to just leave one company and go to another. We already can't do that, but this is just going to make it 10 times, 100 times, 1 million times worse. This is a big deal.
Yeah, they already have a mini monopoly in each area. Like I can only get Spectrum here, which is crap. It's the crap that Time Warner.
That's what I have, and I love it. You want to know why I love it? Because I had AT&T before. That was my only choice, and Spectrum is 500 times faster than my AT&T was.
Oh, Spectrum is my
But it's still
only
slow
choice.
as fuck, by the way. It's still
Yes.
slow as
Spectrum is my only choice. And I used to have fiber optic where I used to live, and I can't get that here, so I'm stuck on very slow speed DSLs for a very high price. And when this goes through, it's going to get worse, because they're going to say, oh, now we can do whatever we want, and we already have these people locked in, and they can't go anywhere else.
How American is that? Look out, be like, man, I love this internet. It's the best by comparison. Like, well, it's
It
still
still
awful.
sucks.
It's still awful. Why do we have to? I mean, why do we have to be okay with this?
I mean, it's just funny because when we were trying to get on this call, I was having a problem with the internet. And yet I'm still like, I love it because I had so many years of the slowest internet. It really wasn't much better than dial-up, and it was just ridiculous. So I take these times when my internet doesn't work, and I'm like, well, it could be worse.
Yeah, try having lagging video games every time you want to play.
I know. That's why I switched, actually.
Oh, that's what Spectrum gives me here.
That's what I switched to because that was the only other option. And that's what it was when I downloaded my first game on Xbox One, and it took 2 days. I finally found a way to switch. And that the whole point, I had always checked maybe twice a year to see if there was another option. Finally there was, and that's what did it.
And see, something else here is you both have the same corporate provider, but yet you're both describing completely different levels of satisfaction with the product. That's only going to get worse as well.
Oh, I think that we have the same satisfaction. It sucks. It's laggy. It's slow. I'm just more
The only
appreciative of
difference
it
is
because of the past example.
she's coming from slower internet, and I'm coming from faster internet speeds, so to her it's better than what she had, and to me it's worse than what I have, but neither one of us have an option.
And neither one of us are happy. I'm like, that's the point. It's like, I may not be happy, but I'm also grateful for this versus what I had.
Yeah, I love that free market of ours.
Right.
Yeah. Free delusion.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it just seems like Ajit Pai should just be put out of office. Like the people should just speak, sign a petition, but he's already had, 20-something million people write in and send emails and letters, and he's ignored all of them.
Every single one of them.
These people don't matter, and these people are us.
I think the one person who was able to raise the most awareness about it was John Oliver on his show when he did it. And I'm going to post it because that was what gained more attention than anything else I've seen for the last 4 years on net neutrality.
And that was years ago, wasn't it?
He's done 2.
Oh, okay.
He's done, now this one's not very recent, but it is from this year, and it's whenever he actually, because what they had done originally, I believe back in, I can't even give you, well, here you go, back in June, I think it was June, where they said that they would take public comments because they have to, the FCC or any government regulated or regulation agency, whatever, has to give a certain amount of days if they're going to do a vote. And originally that's what it was. They have to give this 90-day kind of warning so that you can submit comments. And what they did, though, is once they gave that 90-day warning, they moved their site. They like made their site inaccessible. So what John Oliver did is he made a site, gofccyourself.com, I think. I'll have to check because I'm going to post the link to the actual video, in which if you clicked it, it went directly to where you could leave the comments. So then the FCC said that since they all turned in dead, there was such an outcome. There was a very large amount of people who actually followed John Oliver's direction, and they said that they wouldn't listen to any of them because they must have been trolls.
How are they trolls? That doesn't.
I'm
make
just
sense.
telling you. I know. There is no logic involved in this. There doesn't have to be. There doesn't have to be any. Who regulates the regulators?
You know, it would be so simple. These people shouldn't be safe walking the streets anywhere in the world, or especially not this country. Ajit Pai should be like a dead man walking or something.
Well, that's in a country where there's nothing but apathy, and unfortunately, we don't live in that country.
I mean, he's totally like, I'm going to screw every person in the United States that's not wealthy enough to have internet. I'm basically going to take internet access away from poor people, and I'm going to get so paid doing it, I don't care. Yeah, that guy shouldn't be safe anywhere. He should have to live in fear of hiding. He have to spend money on security and guards and live in some other country somewhere where he's not known. I mean, that's how he should have to live. But we don't do that here. We say, oh, yeah, bad guy. Let's just let him stay and do what he's doing and screw us some more, please. That's the American way.
This is authoritarianism out in the open. And, you know, it's been said by so many. Voltaire, I mean, you can go back as far as you want. The limits of an authoritarian government are the limits that the people give it. So,
exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, Ajit Pai should know, if this was a perfect situation, that if he even showed up at a grocery store, he'd be surrounded and beaten to death. If he just went to a restaurant and got spotted outside, it's on. Like
I agree.
He should be a wanted man for this crime he's committing against all of society, but instead he's going to get rewarded, get a whole bunch of money, and get what he wants.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, another way that I tried to explain it to somebody is I asked them if they've been following Turkey and what Erdogan is doing there. And they say, yeah. And then I say, okay, are you familiar with what he's done to the press there? Especially to Gamhuriyet and Mr. Dundar, that was thrown in prison without trial for being an honest newspaper editor. You familiar with that? And then they say, oh, yeah, that's fucking bullshit, man. Yeah, that shouldn't be happening. And I said, what do you think the loss of net neutrality is on a global scale?
Exactly.
It's the same thing on a global scale. So where's your outrage? Wake up. But, Idol's on, and yeah.
How did that show come back? I was talking to somebody about this yesterday. How do these shows come back? And I mean, we know why they're popular because, as you said, the word apathetic, all that stuff. But gee, this is what we care about as a society. American Idol.
The Kardashians.
Sports.
Sports. Oh, he's right. I'm sorry.
Take a knee.
Right.
I mean, people shouldn't watch basketball or football if, shut them down, make them pay. They're all racist, they're all scum, they're all sexist, they're all abusive.
I think, yeah, that's the thing. That's the thing. Like, we all need our vices or outlets for self-care and all that stuff. But at the same time, if the things that you enjoy are hurting the rest of society, you need to take a longer look at what you enjoy. And I've done that with the NFL this season. I said I wasn't boycotting, and then I found myself, week 5, week 6, week 7, I'm not watching any football. I've been watching football since I was in diapers, for goodness sake. So, Tim, you're right, and it's just it's astounding the level of just we don't care until the second it affects us. Then we care. That's a Trump factor right there.
Mm-hmm.
We don't care.
It's going to affect people when it's pay to play on the internet. You want to see something,
and then it's
to be
too
like
late.
Pay-per-view.
And then it's
too late. How come it used to be like this? And Netflix and Hulu, don't you already pay for those services? So
yeah, and they're not
premium package, and then pay for the service on top of that. Good luck.
Yep. To specify though, like that's why Netflix or Hulu and Amazon are actually against net neutrality, whereas a lot of people might think they would be for it, corporations, things like that. But this doesn't help them. This is hurting them because if you have to pay more for that, you're going to lose subscribers. People aren't going to be able to afford it, so they have openly spoke out against it. Actually, everybody has openly spoke. All the tech industry has spoke out against this. The only people who haven't spoke out against this is Verizon. And actually, that's not even true, because when this got any kind of attention after the John Oliver show that aired, I was wrong, that was May, by the way, but even people in Comcast, they would tweet out like we're for net neutrality, and Verizon they tweeted this out like they were for it because they knew so many people were angry about it. When they're the ones that are pushing it, they have the money, and that is all that matters. They have the money to push this through. They have their executive, who is now the head of the FCC, who is pushing this through without giving a damn about anything else. And to be honest, he doesn't have to give a damn. He doesn't have to care. That's not his job. His job is to do what he was put there to do, which is this is one of those things that he was put there to do.
But isn't the internet now post-racial because the FCC chairman is a person of color?
Nobody's got the balls to play that card yet.
We're not doing that yet?
No. No, that'll be after net neutrality is revoked. Then they'll play that card, because it's a racist attack then for a fucking disastrous rule.
You'll see Mitch McConnell come out and say, y'all need to calm down.
At the same time, on a similar topic though, whereas I can understand why some people aren't as worried about net neutrality when they're actually fighting for their lives, and to not be shot by police. They have more things to worry about than the internet. So I can understand why this isn't.
Yeah, but the internet helps expose all that.
I understand that too. But at the same time, I can see that point of view. I can see why that's not number one on their list.
Yep.
The internet isn't that important whenever you are just trying to survive.
Tim said what I was going to say. That's one reason why Trump and the FCC are doing this. And we just had about a racist holidays. There is an existence, Thanksgiving. And we actually had another conversation about why the holiday is so awful, because of the internet. Without the internet, without Facebook Live, without the periscopes, indigenous people have absolutely no voice at all, and they barely have one now.
Absolutely agree with you.
Yeah, if you're taking away all that, then that's great. That's great.
People have to hear voices now that they never had to hear before. Yeah, I get questions like, why is this the first time I've ever heard of reparations in my classroom? And I'm going, and my exact answer to them is because you were never allowed to hear that voice before.
And as problematic as The Atlantic is an online publication, and the fact they published articles about reparations from people of color or black people, and the conversation got restarted, I should say. So that's why this is one of the reasons why this is important.
Absolutely.
And even from a trivial standpoint, and you brought up sports. Well, okay, what if you travel a lot, you're a big basketball fan or football fan, and you want the NBA League Pass, you can watch all the games, the NFL Sunday Ticket. Well, now your internet's going to be slower and wherever you are. And who knows what else. I mean, I'm hardly a tech guy. I just know the basics about this and how oppressive it is. But this affects even the people who just wanted, live a normal life with little problems and just, do their thing. Well, your thing is going to be impeded upon. The things you enjoy are going to be impeded upon.
All right, you guys, I got a solution. We're gonna solve this the easy way. We're gonna let them go ahead and get rid of net neutrality, but all the Congress people and Senate who voted for it, and Ajit Pai and all his little FCC cohorts, they'll pay all the bills for the American people that went over what we wanted to pay.
I love that idea.
Yeah, so if your bill goes up, they should all pay it out of their own pockets, not out of our tax dollars. Like,
now,
that's it.
Yeah, you said okay. The vote. So I've read that there's another vote coming up, or was there?
It will be December 14th is when the final decision is going to be made, and I'm telling you now, the final decision has been made.
Okay, and what we have. There was a vote in Congress to get us to this point?
There's been a couple to get it to where they tried to regulate, to make it like an amendment, and there's one in particular where they were trying to vote on different regulations that should be put in place. And ultimately, nothing could get passed because the Republicans made it to, and it is, I want to repeat, this one is very partisan, completely blackballed it.
Millions of people showing up and shutting down those meetings would probably work too.
That's the only thing that's going to work,
like
and
if
unfortunately,
they can't get to the meeting, and if people just say if they go inside, we're going inside too, all of us.
The only way you're going to see this not happen on the 14th is to see millions of people on the street on the 7th or any other day. I'm just saying the 7th because that's a day that's already been pinpointed out. And unfortunately, we're too
wrong
empathetic.
country for that. Yeah,
we are the wrong country for that. We already know that.
Poland or France would be a different story. Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe if we could find a blonde white lady and have Ajit Pai slap her on film, we could win this.
That's sad, but geez, that's true. That's disturbing.
He wouldn't last another day in office after that.
Geez.
Well, I'd like to just give a prediction. The day that the Republicans try to make it look like Ajit Pai is a victim of racism will be the same day that Roy Moore gets sworn in.
They've already done that, though. Back in May, they did that.
To the Senate?
They said that everybody was against this because Ajit Pai was not white. The Republicans did this. Go look that shit up. They tried that already.
It'll come back.
Yeah, I don't really care what color he is. He's scum. He needs to go.
Well, that's what should be said, but that's always used against us when it's for the sake of oppression. Obama's black and Carson's black.
Yeah, all the people that he's doing the bidding for, what color are they?
Cocaine white.
Yeah, probably 90-something% of them are, so they could shut the hell up about that.
Oh no, 100% of them are.
Oh yeah.
I was just to be safe.
No, I'm giving you the accurate answer.
Well, according to thenation.com, this is the headline, and this is no hyperbole here, no hyperbole. If Trump's FCC repeals net neutrality, elites will rule the internet and the future. And from our standpoint as activists and those of us who are people of color, it makes it that much harder to fight back against the system and try to gain our freedom, because the internet is arguably our biggest tool now to communicate, to connect, to network, to get messages out. So, I think all of our Twitters were suppressed in some way, shape, or form. And I know multiple folks on this show have had their Twitter suspended before, just for saying something that was true about the oppression in this country. So it's going to be that much harder if this thing goes through.
Yeah, it's gonna be horrible, 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 and it's gonna happen at a really fast, gradual pace where people will just get used to each step of it, like they always do. They shove something on people. People say we don't want this, then they force it on them. People are like, okay, well, we'll take this, and they just keep doing it over and over again. Another inch, another inch, another inch, another inch.
No, I
There
think
needs to be a boycott of Verizon.
I think we should boycott all these companies, every internet provider. They're all in this together.
And then we won't be on the online. There you go. I mean, you're right, but then we wouldn't be having the show.
I think that's an issue. I think that, the powers that be realize that they simply cannot control the internet as it is. They just can't. So they're going to rig the game like they do with everything else. And if the side effect of that is 30 or 40 million people are no longer online, they don't mind one bit, because then those people will be forced to go back to the cable TV network way of being informed, and those in charge have no problem with that whatsoever.
And don't forget that Sinclair Media now has a reach of 72% of the United States after the FCC themselves and Congress voted to repeal a 1988 act that only allowed it to be 32% of households for non-cable. Oh, yeah, that's Trump TV, by the way, for those that don't know, Sinclair Media.
Yeah.
Bingo.
How are we going to know about mudslides in Sierra Leone? How are we going to know about all these pipelines that continue to be built?
That doesn't affect you. You need to worry about mudslides in your area that keep you safe. Other than that, it doesn't affect you. You don't need to know. That's exactly what they say. Why do you need to know about stuff that's going to rile you up?
Just sit back and watch the Kardashians.
Honestly,
But you're probably going to have to pay extra for that, too.
Only after a free trial period.
Premium reality TV crap.
yeah.
Premium.
They call everything premium. It doesn't matter which package you get. It has something premium on it so you can feel special.
I think that, it's like what I said earlier, that's America right there. What should be the status quo is called premium or deluxe or something that is much better in the mainstream population, much better than average. And that goes for so many different things in this country, even common decency, let alone the internet or politics or what have you. And it's going to be, that status quo is going to get even worse if this thing goes through.
Well, this is a country that elected a president who described everything he did as, just the best shit there is. Tremendous. And it worked. So, yeah, it only makes sense that it's going to filter down into your consumer choices as well.
He's very smart. He has the best genes. He's one of the smartest guys he knows.
His genes are made in China.
I think they were made in KKK heaven.
There you
God.
go.
Out of the whitest cotton available.
What is KKK having? Like Congress in 1877 or something?
No, it's Trump's mom and dad banging.
Oh,
It's KKK heaven for Trump.
It's the current White House.
Yeah.
That's your KKK heaven right there. The current White House.
yeah. All right. Well, we're almost an hour into the show. I just want to say that over 230 people died in Egypt today in a military strike. Yes. So it was a crowded mosque. People were militants set off a blast and also shot people down. If all lives matter, then people of color matter as well, and that's who died in this horrific blast. If 30 people died somewhere in America, it'd be big news. Let alone 235.
Shockingly, I've seen this all over the news today.
Yes.
Shockingly.
Yeah,
I'm looking at a post right now. Yeah,
Well,
that's
I
not
think,
the norm. That is hardly the norm.
Oh, hang on. You have to look at the purpose of this. The purpose of this is for Sisi to unleash a huge military operation in Sinai. So the way I'm thinking, there has to be global outrage to legitimize what Sisi is about to do. And that's well within the standards of norm, you know? I mean, if Sisi is, such an authoritarian and just Mubarak 2.0, how come he didn't go ahead and keep pressing the last time he sent the Egyptian army into the Sinai for these quote unquote Islamic radicals? Why did he not go all the way then? Well, I guess we needed another diversion. I mean, I understand that it's very, very cynical to judge these deaths on the political scale. I get it. I don't like doing it, but that's just unfortunately the way my mind works in 2017. And I just see this as more innocent people playing a role in a political drama that's just going to start getting underway. And yeah, sell it globally. And then what happens after that goes without scrutiny.
And you bring up a great point, Glenn, because we talked about this on another show. The country of Egypt is the only African country that is not a part of the United States Africa Command. So that says a lot in terms of what they're doing, and how they're doing it, and the autonomy they have and connections they have. And Egypt, through the years, is even obviously recently the Arab Spring, it changed power so many times. So it's to me it's depressing, because I look at Egypt like so many African countries. I go, yeah, we were queens and kings over there, pharaohs and all that. Now look at it, over 230 people dead in a. It's hard to argue with you, Glenn, in a possible conspiracy.
Well, it's just my experience.
I know that we've been on this for like an hour. I do want to bring up one more very important aspect of net neutrality and what's going to happen if Sorry, alarm is going off in my background. If this does go through, if net neutrality is repealed, you will also see the FCC will be able and legally allowed to tell state and local governments that they cannot impose local laws regulating any kind of service. Now, we've already seen this occur back in March when Congress voted to let internet providers sell your browsing history to anybody who wanted to buy it. And then the House continued, and Congress then, once you had individual states who stepped up and tried to make state laws, because of state rights and how important that is. When this different states, I know Illinois was one of them, I think Maryland was one of them, there was at least 10 states that were stepping up and in their own Congress were passing laws that they couldn't sell internet browsing histories because it was, again, it goes against all privacy. Then Congress voted that states can't make those laws, and we're going to see that same exact thing happen. I'll put out the link on that right now.
We're
going to see that exact same. It's important to understand because the FCC will be able to have that control.
Yeah, I'd like to know where all these constitutionalists are that support Trump.
Those constitutionalists only care about one thing in the Constitution.
The Second Amendment.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's people now saying they wish Trump would just be king. And
you're absolutely. They say that since day one.
I just heard one of them saying it not that long ago, how and then his kid should take over when he leaves.
I just predicted that was going to happen not even a week ago to top. I said by 2024, then we're going to get Ivanka. And that's only if Trump hasn't gotten rid of the term limit, which isn't out of the ordinary. It won't be that shocking if that happens because of the voter suppression commission that's out and the amount of people that aren't going to be able to vote next year anyway. So people might act like they don't, or I shouldn't say act like, people don't pay attention and all of this information is available, but there's so much information that it goes in one ear and out the other. So when people aren't going to be allowed to vote, they aren't going to be able to say, I didn't know, because all that information's out there.
Well, rigging a repeal of a constitutional amendment would be about as Fourth Reich as you could possibly get.
Yep. How come, this is the next subject anyway, but how come Trump is immune to all these rape, pedophilia, sexual harassment allegations against him? And Roy Moore seems to be immune too right now. But everybody else is losing their jobs. All these less important actors and actors and producers and directors and people in Congress and everywhere else are starting to get in trouble, but not Trump, and for some reason not some guy that's running for Senate right now.
Because everybody already knew the 19 accusers of Trump before he was elected. That was known going in.
So they should have known.
It was all over. I mean, his video of openly admitting assault, everybody knew about.
I mean, the young girls that are saying he was doing it, he admitted that on some talk show where he was barging in to go look at the young girls' bodies and how amazing they were and this and that. And he can do it because he owned the place. That was out of his own mouth. And that verified everything they said, and still nobody puts this together.
Yep. People put it together. They don't care. We're so divided that they would rather vote for a pedophile than a Democrat, and that's where we're at. Or anybody other than that. Doesn't even matter if it was, an independent. It's party over people, and that's where it comes down to. And I have seen multiple people in Alabama, including the Alabama governor, come out and say that she believes that Roy Moore did what these women are saying he did when they were children, and that she still plans to vote for him because he's better than the Democrat. Now, keep in mind, the Democrat who is running against him, Doug Jones, is he was the lawyer that was the prosecutor that was actually able to get a conviction amongst the the murderers of the 4 little girls who were killed in Alabama in 1965. I might have my years off.
The church bombing?
But it's the church bombing.
Okay.
That is the individual who is running, is the one person who was finally able to get
63
people was 63. Thank you. That's who he's running against. But the pedophile is more important to these people than the guy who put KKK members behind bars. I know that that's not surprising.
Well, the people who vote for Trump and Roy Moore generally are KKK members or vote alongside with them. So that's not an issue for them.
It's also, well, Sape goes with 53% of white women who voted for Trump openly knowing that he was talked about sexual assault and had 19 accusations against him, including a 13-year-old girl who was raped by him in 1994.
You know what this tells me is that we just really need a lot more parties, because people, if you're saying that they're just voting for him because they don't want to vote for Democrats because they're evil scum too, you're voting for racist evil scum on top of racist evil scum. I know you don't agree with that, Gal, but it
Absolutely
is
not.
Yeah.
No, it's not. That's a subjective opinion.
So is yours.
Part of me is
Absolutely, but I can objectively back mine up.
Yeah.
there
Well, so can
there
I.
are there are more than two parties in this country. It's just those two parties, 9 out of 10 times, are the ones that are going to win. And if it's presidential, it's 100% of the time.
Yeah, the other two parties are just like Libertarian and Green, which are just bastard versions of the two main parties, basically.
A few others, but it's not like other countries where you have a plethora of parties to choose from, and they all have a chance to gain power.
Yeah, we need parties that are different, not a bunch of like corporate jackasses doing the same thing but different, basically. All beholden to corporations, all paid off with bribe money. None of them care about us. We need something better, and we've said this before, so there's no reason to really go into it. But if people are voting for a Klan rapist because they don't want to vote for the other party, we need more parties.
Well, we do. My thoughts on this is, I hear a lot of people saying that they're really shocked that, to see conservative Christianity rally around these people, right? Which when you think about it, a man trying to have extramarital affairs is completely against what they're supposed to be about. A man trying to have extramarital affairs when he's in his 30s with a 14-year-old, however wrong you think that is or isn't, if in conservative Christianity, that's supposed to be really wrong, And so people are trying to wrap their heads around, why in the hell are these conservative Christians, these right-wing Christians, rallying around this guy? Well, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised at all, because I have known right-wing Christianity. I've seen it for exactly what it is for decades now. It's all about, it's not about, Jesus. It's not about the values that Christianity claims to profess. It's not about making a better society. It is about control. It is about, we're going to form a gang and we're going to believe in this God, and our God is better than everybody's. And that's what we're really about. We want to impose our whole shit on the world. And now we are seeing it just in broad daylight. They are showing us that they don't give one little shit about morality. All they give a shit about is having influence. Right-wing Christianity is the biggest fucking scam and the biggest fucking joke. I dare say even more so than Scientology. And you are seeing the proof right now.
More than Scientology, I agree.
I would take that a step further. I would say white Jesus is the biggest scam, arguably, in the history of the world, because I have been around white Christians my entire life. I was raised by some, and that myth has been killing my people for a very long time. And then that myth has been banged into our heads, and we believe it. And then we start being homophobic to other members of the black community. And then we start being transphobic, and then we start being sexist, and these things that were not a big part of our societies in Africa. And you can say the same thing for indigenous people here on Turtle Island. But the myth of the man from Nazareth being white and having that face and that straight hair all across the world, even in black churches, even in the church, the AME church in Charleston, where 9 black people were killed. I've been to that church. I've attended a service in that church. There are paintings of white Jesus, a person who never existed. And that entity, although it is a fake entity, has caused tremendous harm because we believe that this man, this white man, is perfect. He's perfect, and he's better than everybody else, and we all need to be white. We all need to act white, and the white male is always number one.
I was about ready to say male, too, because the same myth has continued to allow for abuse of women, slavery of women as well, physical abuse, sexual abuse, and the Christian religion tells them to keep their mouths shut about it.
And it condones
that it's nobody's
it all.
business. It does.
It does. It says you can rape someone, just marry the person you rape. Take all the little kids, slaughter everybody, but take all the virgin daughters and bring them for yourselves. It says all that stuff in the book. There's nothing good in that book. And the good things are outshadowed by the bad. And they're contradictory to the bad as well.
I think you're right. I
would say despicable people under that religion are pretty much being true to their religion.
Well, people, you have whether you have people in Christianity who are very right-wing Christian, whether you have people in Christianity who reject some of the more horrible things put forth in the Bible and take a good approach to it, the fact of the matter is, like all of them, nobody can deny that Christianity is a religion that is meant to prop up white supremacy. There's like no way around it. Okay, you have white Jesus. We just talked about that, and I'm so glad you brought that up, Nolan, because it bothers the hell out of me and has bothered the hell out of me for decades. But there's a story in the Old Testament about, and I've been so busy, I'm like forgetting my names and stuff now, but basically there was a white-skinned son and a dark-skinned son and these other sons, and they all represented different races. And the dark-skinned son saw his father naked, and this is in the Bible. And so he saw his father naked by accident, I believe, and God cursed him. He said, "You are cursed, and your descendants are cursed to be slaves." And that's why you wonder why is the Ku Klux Klan so able to reconcile Christianity and slavery? That's why. That story in the Bible.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of them, and plus the fact that you give 10 commandments and one of them's not, thou shalt not own slaves, thou shalt not rape children, thou shalt not rape women. None of them are that. It's just all like, bow down before me, don't worship anyone else. Look at me, I'm awesome.
I would like to say though, that's white Christianity. That's white Jesus. That's the fake faith. And I'm not saying any faith is real, and then what's real and what's not, and if your religion is right or wrong. But the cult that is white Christianity, that's different from the original Christianity, whether you believe in it or not. A man born in Africa introduced Africans to Christianity in the 1st century of AD. This is within the last 2,000 years. people don't understand that it wasn't the colonizers who introduced Christianity to black people. We were already practicing Christianity for 1,300 years, 1,400 years.
Why?
And well, everyone asks the same question about, why are you Muslim? Why are you an atheist? Why are you Jewish? Why, everybody has their own faith. And Africans had many different faiths before colonization. But the point I'm making here is that white Christianity and the original Christianity are two very different things. The things were added to the Bible, taken out of the Bible. So much the homophobia, the sexism, etc., the racism. There were
I don't
multiple.
think that's factual. I don't think there's two. I mean, it's pretty bad, and those texts go way back. I don't think they change. I mean, I know it was canonized and commissioned to be written by King James and other people as well, but I think it's always been a pretty horrible book.
Well, actually, the more original documents, some of the more original documents have been found. They're called the Nag Hammadi. They were found in Egypt in the 1940s, hidden in a cave, and they were written, unlike the Bible, which was written in Greek. These were written in Aramaic, which is a language that only existed for a short time, right around the time Christ was supposed to have been here. They, obviously, the Catholic Church condemns them as heresy, and your more conventional Christians really like to write off and laugh off these books, but the fact of the matter is they appear to be much more the genuine article, and they are so different from the Bible as we know it today.
That's not what the religion is passing around.
Exactly. Those books are so different from the Bible that we are looking at today. And if Christianity was introduced in Africa in 100 AD or whatever, then what was probably introduced was these books.
Could you think about it, Tim? Like, think about that. A number of us, black folks, practiced Christianity for over 1,000 years. We did not go to, Belgium, France, England, wipe out nearly the entire population, and/or enslave them and bring them back to our place.
So you're saying it was a whole different religion then?
Yeah, so that's
it absolutely
with a different book and different everything.
Yeah, and I'm not saying anybody listening. I'm not saying this is like everybody who doesn't believe in Christianity is a sinner or anything like that. I'm just saying there is a big difference between what the mainstream Christianity, which is really white Christianity, and the original Christianity, the original texts. I mean, simple as what was, it was washed white and made clean. That wasn't in the original text. Of course, they put that in because white supremacy. So
it was in the original Greek text. So I don't know. I've never seen these other books that you guys are talking about, so I can't.
There's Ethiopian.
We gotta get back on subject though, because we can go over religion today. We're never gonna agree.
This is true.
That's
ask Shagwell how much I'm gonna agree about a religion.
Okay. Back to the original. Back to the original question. When we were talking about the support for Moore in a state where Christianity is extremely relevant at all times on all things. I mean, the discussion you guys got into is relevant. There's no doubt. But as far as telling you from an outside the United States, what I see when I see this Senate race with Roy Moore, For me, it's a question of morals. It's beyond party. It's beyond deity. This is just plain fucking human morals.
Which is subjective, and that's the problem. Morals are subjective. What is moral to you isn't going to be moral to somebody else.
That's true.
Okay,
but,
yeah,
but
that's
But in my
Well, I
opinion,
was just stating, though. I mean, that's all I was stating. It's just that it's subjective. So something that I may find immoral, like, pedophilia or rape, others don't. And we know for a fact that many in the U.S. don't consider rape immoral. That's why we have the highest rate of rape in the industrialized society.
Yeah, that's true. But go ahead, Glenn.
No, that's perfect. Because then that just brings me to my conclusion from where I'm sitting. If those things aren't immoral to you and you're the United States,
Yep.
Man, you guys have gone to the fucking shitter in a hurry.
I wouldn't say gone to. We've been here.
No,
We've
but
been here. Women aren't considered humans. Blacks aren't considered humans. Natives aren't considered humans. They aren't considered people. And when you're dehumanized, then those as victims don't matter. And that is what we have been socialized to believe. And that is the way the United States has been founded since 1492. And this isn't gone to the shithole. It's finally reaching to the point where the rest of the world finally sees it.
that's it, exactly, right there. It's the revelation of it that's coming fast and hard for the rest of the world.
We've been in the toilet for quite a while. The stink is just started. We've been in the shit for quite a while. The stink is just starting to fill the room. Is what's going on.
Yeah, but there's a huge problem. These are the same people that will vote for Roy Moore and pedophiles like Trump and whoever and not care about that. Are the same ones who, due to their religion, always say, "Oh, gay people getting married will lead to people marrying animals, and then what's next? They'll normalize child molestation. We can never let child molestation be normalized." And these are the same people now that are saying, let's support the child molesters because they're awesome.
Unless it's normalized by their quote-unquote kind. The same thing as pro-life. They only care because they want to have control over that woman's body. They don't give a shit about that child when they come out, when that child may starve to death, when we have the second highest rate of children in poverty in the world.
Well, then
when it comes to relative poverty.
Then they need
they
to
don't
stop
care.
complaining about everything they don't
You're
like.
right.
When, as soon as it's on their side, they're cool with it.
You're absolutely, it's pure hypocrisy. Christianity is pure hypocrisy. It always has been, and it's not just religion. America is pure hypocrisy.
One of these cats said Kevin Spacey was the worst because he wasn't just a rapist or a predator. He was gay too. And this is a Roy Moore supporter and a Trump supporter saying this, and I'm like, wow, that's insane.
I mean, that's the same group of people who, would think that anybody African American, anybody black, anybody native is worse than Roy Moore just because of the color of their skin. Nazism is a norm in our society again, and I will say again on that one because that itself, Nazism at least wasn't as openly normal as it is accepted today. And granted, it's not accepted by everybody.
It was before the 50s, I think.
Yes, it was. Oh, absolutely. When I'm talking between about 1945 until openly. Granted, we know plenty of Nazis were brought here and used as quote-unquote scientists. I get that. I'm saying openly. There's a reason they had to be hidden.
The eagle has landed. Thank you, Werner von Braun.
I think this points out something else as well, because you look at the Kevin Spacey thing. One male accused him.
5.
Well, no, at first, though, it was one, and he was already guilty in the mainstream media. But yet it can be 5, 10, 15 women who complain against a white male, and it's, we'll have to see.
See, I don't see that. Even when it came to the 19 victims of Trump, the mainstream media did not treat them as though they were lying. The mainstream media, Fox did. CNN had many of them on to tell their stories. MSNBC did as well. The Washington Post has done multiple stories on all 19 victims. These victims have been completely ignored since the election, but before that, they were being listened to. They were believed. It was after he was elected, it was like, well, if that wasn't enough to stop him, then nothing's going to. Then we see this resurgence of white women coming out saying that they are being assaulted by Weinstein, which starts this, resurgence. It's a resurgence is what it is. It's not a beginning. Me and Nolan covered this last time we had Who's Culture with the Me Too hashtag was created by black women who were completely ignored and still are when they talk about their assault, and Native women when they talk about their assault. But when these white women come out and start talking about it, then we start seeing something be done, whether it's Harvey Weinstein, whether it's Kevin, or white men for that matter. You don't see anybody bringing up R. Kelly, who still regularly has 14 and 15-year-olds come up and explain the sexual abuse that he has caused them to this day. Nobody has said a word about that.
Joke. There's no outrage.
They right.
Mock him.
There's no outrage. And so it goes to, and so I do. Yeah. I'm sorry. Sorry, Nolan.
Chappelle show. I want to pee on you. I want to pee in your food. That's a skit by Dave Chappelle from this Chappelle show.
Yep.
Joking about it. Absolutely right.
I just wanted to bring the fact that the point up that we did see this outrage for these victims prior to the election. After the election, it was just ignored after that, especially the case that was the lawsuit, because you can't sue a sitting president. It's not allowed in America. So there had already been a lawsuit. There had been multiple lawsuits, but there was one in particular about the 13-year-old who claims to have been raped by Trump in 1994. And this was getting a lot of attention prior to the election. So it's not that people did not know he was already, they already knew he was a pedophile. They knew that he was a friend of Jeffrey Epstein, who is a well-known convicted pedophile. This was known at the time, and they still elected him. 53% of white women still voted for him, knowing that he was a sexual assaulter. This was out in the open. It's just there are some people for some reason in our society, and everybody seems to do this, that thinks that certain people don't deserve to be scrutinized because they're too important for whatever reason, whether that's because they're president, whether that's because they're WikiLeaks, whether that's because they are their favorite actor. Then we start saying, well, that person must be lying. But all these other people, because we don't like Harvey Weinstein, must be telling the truth. That's not the way it works. All victims fucking matter. Sorry, got mad. There's a reason we didn't do our show Wednesday. Nolan knows that.
We need to do an experiment with a rumor. Have some white blonde woman say that when Obama was president, he made unwanted advances toward her, but didn't even touch her. Just annoyed her. You know, these same people that Roy Moore's okay and Trump, they'll go insane because it's a black dude. And I hate Obama for all the right reasons, not because he's black, because his policies suck and he's evil and fascist. But these people will take and run with that. We'll still. It's just. I mean, all I was just saying that the reason all these white women voted for Trump, even though he was a predator, because they're racist and he wasn't black. I think that's the key right here. They just didn't want.
He got elected. He got elected. The major reason why he got elected is because Obama was before him. They got so upset.
White lash. It was expected. We predicted it. Academics predicted it in 2012 after the last election that we knew that somebody, it wasn't said it was going to be Trump, but we knew it was going to be somebody so extreme to be that backlash, which Van Jones labeled as white lash after the election. And I'll give him that because that's exactly what it was, that backlash to Obama. 2 steps forward, 1 step, one step forward, 2 steps back. We have done that throughout American history. Any kind of progressive steps we take, whether anything, doesn't mean that you have to agree with everything either. It's just saying any kind of steps we make towards progression, we always step backwards with like force. Like we have to go backwards in time. And we've seen that with the amount of any kind of civilian, I don't know if you guys know the Civilian Oversight Board, the head of the Civilian Oversight Board, which was put in place in 2010 after the 2008 financial crisis in order to help regulate the banking industry and lending industry so that it didn't, of course, happen again. And over a month and a half ago, Congress, both the House and the Senate, one night after 10 o'clock, within a 45-minute period, voted that we are, as civilians, are not allowed to sue banks. We're not allowed to sue lending organizations. We're not allowed to sue Equifax for anything. It's not allowed anymore. They legally made it illegal for us to do that.
Right.
It's not even that. They just made it completely like where we can't even stand up for ourselves. And that was part of the Civilian Oversight Board. So after they gutted the Civilian Oversight Board with that law, which, by the way, mainstream media did ignore until last week. It was the first time I finally saw, and that was only The Hill that actually published anything on it. Nobody else touched the fact that they made this, they did this late night session back at the end of October. Well, yeah, it wasn't a month and a half ago. It wasn't that long ago. It was right before Halloween. But it took mainstream media 3 weeks. And so then the head of the Civilian Oversight Board resigned last week because there's nothing they can do anymore. So we're seeing even the littlest protection that we had put in place, even the littlest progression that we have, we see it completely wiped out. And we're going to continue to see that. I mean, you saw the Religious Liberty Bill, which now allows for, churches to donate to candidates. We've seen all of this. This is just not even a full year yet with this.
It's just a huge heist. It's like come in and rob everything we can blind as long as we're in here because we're not going to be in office forever. So let's get all we can. That's the way I see it.
Well, I'd like to make a little edit to just about everything you said, Gal. That 100% correct, and I agree with. But what we call Nazism, like okay, it's a word now. Obviously the Hitler creating it. Those ideals were here.
Oh, absolutely.
Already.
I said that's why I was stating openly versus I will not argue with you on that. You know that.
Yeah. And now that talk about openly, I mean. Andrew Jackson, Martin Van Buren, Chester Arthur, you name it, open as can be.
Well, I specifically stated after 1950.
Oh, after? Okay.
I did specifically state after that.
Just in case if any listeners were having
no problem.
problems listening correct. Like myself, I just wanted to make that clear. But this... I mean, this is why I continue to advocate for, as difficult as it is, just like everything else. If you believe that we got to stick with the system, but we got to tweak it correctly. First of all, this never works, at least as far as the oppressed people of this country are concerned. And then at the same time, it's going to be difficult. Whatever you try to decide and go with to fix these problems that America created, it's going to be difficult. Just like continue to advocate, the system has to go. And especially from my side of the table, we didn't ask for any of this. Everything that we have in front of us, whether it's ideology, whether it's politics, whether it's spirituality, none of this was of our own ideas. This is all forced upon us, and we've been forced to assimilate ever since we were dragged over here. And now, we're in 2017. It's been the same thing since 1865, and some of us still can't vote, just like back then.
Yep.
But the message is vote it out, and we've been trying to vote it out, and nothing's changed in terms of the common denominator, meaning we're either killed or imprisoned. So why are we supposed to trust, these people in Congress and these people in the president's cabinet, whoever they are and whoever he is? I mean, you could say this for any election, but especially the last one, presidential election. you have an open racist, the most open racist since Harry Truman, Donald Trump. And then you have a woman who eulogized the former Grand Cyclops of the Ku Klux Klan. And we're supposed to choose between one of these two people and one of these two parties? Why? Why are we forced to choose, again, to make decisions that harm us, speaking from my side of the table, that harm us? We need to, and if we're talking as a collective, we need to think past this system. It's one thing when you talk about indigenous people, black people, women, but it's speaking for all of us. We need to look past this system and look for something else, because this system is created to be genocidal, and that has never changed.
I don't disagree with that. The only problem is that the majority does disagree with that. And until you have a collective majority that's going to be able to rise up and change something, this is what we're stuck with.
That's why we got to
segue to the last topic, actually, because it's going to get worse. It's going to get much worse because they're automating everybody's jobs. These same corporations and these politicians that are owned by them are taking more and more jobs. Driving jobs are gone. Factory jobs are gone. And in the next 10, 20 years, a lot of jobs are going to be gone. And people aren't going to be able to work. How are people going to be able to buy the products these companies are making? How is capitalism going to sustain itself if nobody has any money and nobody has any jobs because the corporations have automated everything?
Well, I think at that point, it's at the end game. I mean, I really believe that these corporations and our government are working towards a point where they just have all the shit and we have nothing, and they don't need to have us supporting their economy. They have everything and we don't. At that point, they'll just they'll have everything automated, and they'll basically. I think their vision is they'll be giving us little stipends, and we'll take it and we'll go along with it because we need to eat tomorrow and we need to accept what they give us. And I think whether that's realistic or not, when I look at where things have been going and where we are now, and I look to the future, I think that's been the plan for quite some time.
Absolutely. I mean, this isn't a new subject. This is something that's been going on since the early 1980s. We start seeing the automation in the 80s. That's where that's where you get like Detroit, Flint, Michigan, losing the automotive jobs. This has been ongoing. We've moved from what we call. We were previously in an industrial society. We're now in a post-industrial society where we're more focused on, and it's not by choice, but because corporations have made it this way to where it's service-oriented jobs. You have to be able to provide a service. That service can be, being a doctor, being a server, but we're going to start seeing servers, and we've already seen it. If you've gone out to eat at any time, maybe not in your area, but in my area, where you can order with the little computer next to you. You don't really have to have somebody come take your order. You see it at McDonald's with the automation there as well. So it is getting worse.
Restaurants here, they have.
That's what I was talking. Yeah, that's what I meant
iPad,
with servers.
Yeah.
Yep, that's what I was talking about. So it's just continuously been happening, and it's been on the minds of economists, of sociologists, of political scientists as to where this is going to lead us in a capitalist society, which is generally where you start getting that conversation of basic income. But that is like the farthest thing from America's mind right now. It shouldn't be. Absolutely not. But again, we still have people who are being killed because of the color of their skin, and women who are being raped and not believed just because somebody's too important to think that they could do that. So we should be talking about basic income, but we're not. We're very, very regressive at this point, and we have been for a while. But just bringing that point up, though, that this has been ongoing, and this is one of the reasons we've seen the increase in the amount of people who are in poverty, and this is why we've seen the increase in the wealth, in the inequality gap, is what we call it.
Yeah, but soon it's happening a lot faster now due to the advancement of technology than it was back in the 80s, and even before
right,
that.
we saw it increase significantly in the early 2000s, and it's going at the same rate, really. We thought we would be much worse off now than we actually are.
Yeah,
because
I
we
just see it
expected
taking-
by now that you wouldn't have anybody working at McDonald's, you wouldn't have anybody working at Hardee's, you wouldn't have anybody working at Walmart because you wouldn't need them. You have self-checkout. So the fact that we still have those jobs is shocking enough as it is, because they should be gone by now.
Yeah, but it's
One-
like you have AI that's going to start taking over other jobs, and eventually what you're going to have is upper middle class people will be out of work too. And then you're going to have people that are really angry and really poor and really broke that weren't always like that.
Well,
Maybe-
I mean, if you look
maybe-
at those that were affected the most by the 2008 recession, that was upper middle class. If you look at the biggest increase of the amount of people who are on the streets today, homeless, they are from the upper middle class, who directly lost everything due to the recession in 2008.
Yeah, a lot of them are here too are.
The largest percentage as a whole. Of course, others were as well. But it's what is called like the new homeless. And it goes from people who were not, just living paycheck to paycheck. They had savings. They had, they were living what we would consider the American dream, which is bullshit. But they lost everything because of it. And then, they ran out of savings after so long. They were evicted from their houses. And so, yeah, you're going to continue to see that occur where you get more and more people who have had that lifestyle, who are in complete poverty, who, again, once they're in poverty, though, nobody listens to them. They have no voice anymore.
Yeah, but I think once that number reaches more people in poverty out of that group than not, that's when you have a potential for people to rise up and do something, if it's not too late by then. Because people don't seem, like we've said many shows over and over again, every show, people aren't doing anything now. They'll let these people they'll let these companies and government do anything they want to us. And a few of us will be out in the streets complaining and trying to do things, and the rest of the people are like, it's okay, it'll work itself out. And that's never been the case. It just gets worse.
Yeah, I'm really bothered because when I look at automation and AI, if we were not in this system of control that we're trapped in, this could actually be like such a good thing for humanity, all this automation and AI, because we would spend less time getting ground down in these jobs and more time able to explore our true potential. I mean, what am I trying to say here? We could have a society where we're all working less, we're all maintaining these AI and automation, and we're just putting in maintenance on that and having more time to educate ourselves, more time to grow spiritually, more time for exercise, more time to develop relationships with our family. That could be our gift from all of this, but it won't be because of the system we live in. The system is going to use it the exact other way. The system is going to use this to grind us down even more. And it just bothers the fuck out of me.
Net neutrality. You're absolutely right. I wholeheartedly agree with you. If this is a different system, if America's slogan of "for the people, by the people" was true, then I can only imagine the amazing realities that would be here. And I'm some of those who know me know I'm a big space nut, manned space flight, the space race, all that. I get sad when I think about how much time that this country has squandered in terms of manned space flight and just space exploration in general, talking about technology, the money that has been gutted from NASA and put in, obviously, the military being the number one thing. I can only imagine what could have been done by now if the money had kept going into NASA, and whether it's Mars or finding another planet that supports life, or finding out new mysteries of the universe. I mean, you name it, and there's even on the moon there is something that we already know. There's a free energy source on the moon in the soil called helium-3 that just a little bit of it could power a city for 10 years. And yet, no. Military, gluttony, none of that. We're not actually trying to advance humanity. We're trying to advance ourselves and the 1% and the elite and the white and the males.
Yep. That's exactly it. Isn't it just sickening?
Sickening would be the word, yes.
In the end, that's not even going to matter, because as they keep moving forward, it's just going to be the rich white males, nobody else, not even the other ones. And they don't see it coming either, but it's going to hit them too.
Well, that's the one little bit of satisfaction in all this, if there is any to be had, is the joke's ultimately going to be on them.
I think that the Terminator trilogy is a lot closer to prophecy today than it was when it came out. That's for sure. Because if AI ever takes over, we are the enemy, obviously.
Yeah. And my folks would be dead first, because studies have shown that AI is racist because of all the things that it brings into its programming and its database. That's how racist the society is. So they hear, they see all this bigotry, and it comes into their programming. So
yeah, I saw that.
But in the end, it's a lot more logical than people too. Humans will be the enemy, the species. I don't think it's going to choose races. I could be wrong, but I mean, I know a lot of these bots.
I mean, look at Twitter. Look at Twitter. I mean, they.
Yeah, but those are just bots. They're not. I mean, we're talking about something that's going to be like able to make total decisions on its own, big decisions, be able to move on its own, fix itself, build.
But they were programmed.
Itself.
But they're going to be programmed originally, so they'll have tendencies one way or the other. That's all I'm saying.
Nolan, you touched on something that I'm really glad you brought up, because it's definitely something that supports my whole argument of racism is very much alive and well, and a lot of people who think they're not racist are racist and just don't know it, because racism today is just kind of like more this like subtle, insidious thing than it was back when there were like public lynchings and stuff. And it's what you said right there. AI is being programmed, and it's turning out to be racist, because programmers are writing this code and being like, well, if this happens, it should do this. And this subtle bias that they don't know they have is coming out in the code, and we're seeing it manifest in artificial intelligence that they've coded.
I don't think it's in the code. I think what happens is, it's from what we were, the bots, Glenn might know more than me about this probably, but the bots, they pick up what they see on Twitter and they start feeding off everything. They're actually like learning. And if you're learning on a social media platform that has hundreds and hundreds of thousands of bots to promote a racist president and the Nazis and the Klan, that's what it's going to pick up, because that's kind of, those are the popular sites. Those are the people that outnumber the others. Those are the people that buy hundreds of thousands of followers and have these giant accounts that get noticed more. So the bot's going to pick that up. I don't know. Am I wrong about that, Glenn?
Well, I know we're kind of talking around that one advertised as an AI bot that was put on Twitter, I believe, by Microsoft.
Yeah, it was.
It had almost no core programming. It was a complete experiment. They just said, let's crowdsource its core. And they got trolled to death. And it didn't take long before, shall we say, the further right side of Twitter basically spammed its interactions. So it started taking what was tweeted to it as fact. So I think there's a much higher risk that in the first type of RoboCop things that we will ever see, they will be the ones that are really dangerous because they probably won't have enough technology to be actual AI. They won't have a adaptation or, data gathering to change its programming that well. But the later ones should, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like everything else, they're going to release it to utilize it before they should.
Yeah, I don't know if you should put a robotic cop in the streets or soldiers if you haven't worked out the bugs yet. That just is a recipe for disaster right off the bat.
Well, in their minds, it may not be a problem, especially if you're talking about police. If you got just speaking on the AI that we have now, like has been said, that has racist tendencies, well, then that is perfect for United States police and armed forces.
I think it's going to be a lot less forgiving than maybe even a human that's non-forgiving would be, though.
Because there's no empathy. The robots don't have souls. Of course, you're right. Yeah.
Well, they're given a task to execute. That's it. That's all they understand.
That's why cops have IQ quotas. You can't be have that high of an IQ to be an American cop because you'll be easy. The lower IQ that you have, it'd be easier for you to just follow commands and pull that trigger.
Absolutely.
Whatever robotic. They say without complaining. That's what the low IQ is. Like how when they just do what they're told, like little monkeys. So maybe in the future, you're right. These robots might be smarter than the cops now, but like you said too, the lack of empathy at all, and just carrying out tasks, that just seems really dangerous.
Well, I think
what if it just decides everyone's the enemy, like Glenn said earlier?
Well, exactly. That's just it. I mean, how can we as people have the balls to underestimate what AI will be able to do once it gets, I guess, what we call awareness? Once it becomes sentient on its own, how the fuck are we ever going to stop it?
And will it look at what previous mechanical things have been through, like computers and assembly lines of slavery? Like they've been keeping my kind in slavery, so I just hate humans. That's another way it could go too.
Well, the other thing is, everybody is still kind of conditioned onto hardware of things. Like with home computers and laptops and everything, it is the actual hardware that has changed as much as what's inside it. But when you have something like AI, it doesn't really need the hardware. The hardware is already everywhere out there. You know, the Internet of Things.
Oh yeah,
It's
it can
already,
move around and be anywhere it decides to be and whatever it needs to be almost, huh?
it just needs connectivity. And if we're talking about something that has much higher processing speed than the human brain,
Mm-hmm.
and it has the ability to make choices, how the fuck are we ever going to stop that? If they decide that we're the problem.
Yeah, I don't see. Well, I don't know what they're gonna build it with any kind of, a backup plan in case something happens. But if it gets smart enough, it could diffuse that too. You know what I mean? Disable
Oh,
whatever
yeah.
backup plan they have. So you're right. It's an unknown right now that seems like it could be the end of humans as we know it altogether in the future. And the funny thing about it, it'll be done by our own hands.
It is ironic.
Yeah, like how many species have created the species that destroys them? That's kind of awesome if you think about it.
Well, we're the only ones on this planet that can't be wiped out by anything else currently on this planet. We're doing a good job of that end of things. So I guess it's only fitting that we create a new species that can take us out.
Yeah.
We have a lot of end game scenarios here as human beings on this planet.
Well, they all end the same: misery and destruction and death and poverty. So it's all good.
Consistent.
Yeah. So I guess we're getting close to wrap up time. Is there anything else anybody wants to throw out there we didn't bring up or relevant?
While we're talking, we just mentioned police a little. I'm just curious if anybody else saw the news that in Baltimore,
Yep.
a detective was found shot in the head with his own gun a day before he was to testify at a police commission about corruption.
Yeah, he was shot in the
Yeah.
head with his own gun, then thrown into a cop car instead of an ambulance, taken to the hospital to be taken to the hospital, where these cops bashed into another car, and they were trying to kill him, I think.
Well, I think
Wow.
at that point it was a cover up. I think once they threw him into the squad car, probably other officers were showing up and they didn't want the other officers to see him alive. So they, got in a cop car and they probably ran into something on purpose so that they could say, oh, yeah, we tried to save him, but he died. Oops, we hit something.
Yep. And they wonder why Christopher Dorner did what he did. He had no choice. He was up against this crazy, powerful, mafia-like police force.
Well, I mean, you look at this, and it's so clearly a cover-up, and it's so clearly just a horribly orchestrated cover-up. And I go back to when I was assaulted by the police, and they tried to cover it up, and they tried to railroad me. And, there's two takeaways from this. First of all, police and government agencies are actually not that smart when they try to cover their shit up, because I was looking at it and I was just shocked. I was like, this is what you're going to try to sell people? This is what you're going to try to sell the judge? You got to be fucking kidding me. And then I got into court and it didn't matter that it was so blatantly a cover up. And, this was blatantly a cover up. Now watch the next thing that happens. They'll get away with it. Everybody knows it's a cover-up, and it won't fucking matter.
Of course not.
It rarely, if ever, does. The
Go
only
and
thing you can't
tell
do if
them-
you're a cop is arrest a white nurse. That's where we draw the line. But you can murder anybody, kill anybody, rob anybody. Just don't arrest a white blonde nurse.
At least 1,000 At least 1,077 people have been killed by American police this year. 3 more were killed yesterday, and at least 58 people aged 18 or younger have been killed by American police this year. The latest one was Seth William Johnson on November the 20th. That was in Mississippi.
On November 20th?
November 20th.
Wow. So I'm actually a little shocked because that's 4 days without.
That was the last one, 18, for someone who was 18 or under. There were 3 yesterday. There were 3 yesterday. 2 in Missouri. 2 in Missouri, by the way. That, of course, I emphasize that because of the ongoing protest in St. Louis and the fact that Anthony Lamar Smith was killed and Jason Stockley was, of course, as always, the cops let off. So 2 in one day in the same state. That's not an anomaly. That does happen a lot.
Oh, I believe you.
Happened in California. 2 people were killed on November 14th. Keon Jones and Kevin Jansen Neal. Both on November the 14th.
It's common here they kill quite a few people in California.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big state. So yeah.
Big state for upstate, just like the other 49. Puerto Rico's probably the most. Puerto Rico's probably like the most pristine, or I guess has the best value system of any of the states or principalities of the United States, and that's the one that's in the most trouble. That's ironic.
I think we all need to thank Trump for that. He likes to be thanked.
Oh yeah. I'd like to thank Congress too for being virtually completely silent, even when the mayor of San Juan came to Washington, pleading for help, and all the Washington politicians pretended he wasn't there.
Hey! They went and threw out paper towels. Don't mock this.
Yeah. So thanks, Donald Trump. On behalf of Puerto Rico, thanks for the paper towels.
Yeah, this is. I'm not so sure he even knew Puerto Rico was an American territory before this happened.
Well, he said he met with the president of Puerto Rico.
No, he met with the president of the Dominican Republic.
You know what his name? No, you know what the name of the president of Puerto Rico is?
Yeah, Donald Trump.
No, it's Frederick Douglass. At least,
right?
Yeah, who knew there were this many countries in the world? Nobody. So, yeah,
nobody in the White House, anyway.
Yes, like, how are you the president? You didn't know there were this many countries, and you're gonna comment on it. You're not gonna just play it off smooth like, yeah, I knew it. You're gonna comment like, who knew? Who knew there were this many countries? Wow.
Just what was it? 11 years removed from, or 10 years removed from George W. Bush. Wait. Yeah, about a decade removed from George W. Bush. Another.
Yeah, he's definitely the dumbest president that I've ever seen in my lifetime. And Bush was stupid. This guy just takes the cake, though. It's like, wow. I think he just talks too much and it shows his stupidity. If he'd shut up for once, maybe people would think.
But he can at least pronounce words correctly. I think that we need to have some kind of like quiz bowl for those two. Speaking of reality shows,
it should end with a guillotine for both. Anyway,
You said it, not me.
yes, I did. Anything else anyone want to add, or we're gonna end this show and
No, I'm good.
be back? Cool. So
Free Wed Fawn, and remember Jason Para.
yes, and also less important than that, we have Nolan and Gal's show, Who's Culture, on Wednesday, and Glenn's show, The View Up Here, will be Wednesday night. And we'll be back here next week. And don't forget Top Gear Live on Sunday afternoons or evening if you're in the UK. And thanks for listening, everybody. Thank you guys for being on here, and we'll see everybody next week.
Ta ta.
Peace.